What happened to Red Dead Redemption actor's career? Let's find out. Starting with Roger Clark. Roger Clark's career before playing Arthur Morgan in Red Dead Redemption 2 was relatively low-key. He had roles in various TV shows and video games, but nothing that truly catapulted him into the spotlight. Clark worked steadily, honing his craft in voice acting and motion capture. But he wasn't exactly a household name. Then came the role of Arthur Morgan in RDR2, and everything changed. Clark's portrayal of the gruff but ultimately honorable outlaw resonated with players worldwide. His performance was praised for its depth, nuance, and emotional range, earning him several awards and nominations. Post-RDR2, Clark's career has seen a noticeable uptick. He's become a sought-after voice actor in the gaming industry, lending his talents to various projects. He's also gained a significant following on social media, where he often interacts with fans and shares behind-the-scenes content from his work. In terms of grading his post-RDR2 career, I'd give Clark a solid B+. While he hasn't landed another role quite as iconic as Arthur Morgan, which to be fair is a tall order, he's definitely capitalized on his newfound fame. He's been smart about choosing projects that showcase his range as an actor, and he's maintained a strong connection with his fan base. Clark has also used his platform to support charitable causes and promote positive messages within the gaming community. This has helped solidify his reputation not just as a talented actor, but as a genuinely good guy in an industry that can sometimes be lacking in positive role models. Overall, Roger Clark's career trajectory has been on an upward trend since RDR2. While he may not be headlining blockbuster movies or AAA game titles left and right, he's carved out a respectable niche for himself in the voice acting world and seems to be enjoying the ride. Next, Dutch. So Benjamin Byron Davis, the dude who played Dutch in Red Dead Redemption 2, had a decent thing going on TV before he got that gig. He was popping up in shows here and there, making a living as an actor, you know? Not exactly famous, but he was doing all right for himself. Then RDR2 happened, and man, his Dutch was something else. He really nailed that whole "I have a plan" vibe, making Dutch this complex character that players loved to hate, or hated to love, depending on who you ask. After RDR2 blew up, Davis kinda rode that wave. But it wasn't exactly a tsunami, if you catch my drift. He managed to snag a couple of blink-and-you'll-miss-it roles in some Marvel flicks, which is pretty cool. I mean, being in the MCU is nothing to sneeze at, even if you're just guy in background number 3 or whatever. He's been keeping busy with other stuff too, grabbing roles here and there in TV and movies. Nothing huge, but hey, work is work, right? Giving him a C grade for his post-RDR2 career feels about right. He didn't exactly become the next big thing, but he's still in the game, you know? And those Marvel gigs, even if they're small, that's gotta count for something. Bottom line, Davis is still out there, doing his thing. He might not be headlining blockbusters, but he's working, and in Hollywood, that's half the battle. Plus, he'll always have Dutch. I mean, who doesn't want "I insist" on their resume, right? Next, Rob, who played John Marston. Rob Weithoff's journey in the acting world is a bit of an odd one, to say the least. Before he landed the role of John Marston in Red Dead Redemption, the guy was pretty much a blank slate in the industry. No big roles, no claim to fame. Just a regular dude trying to make it in the big city. Then boom, Rockstar Games comes along and casts him as the lead in what would become one of the most iconic Western games ever made. Talk about a lucky break, right? Weithoff knocked it out of the park as Marston, giving us this gruff, complex character that players couldn't get enough of. But here's where things get weird. After RDR1 blew up, Weithoff didn't exactly ride that wave of success into a booming acting career. Instead, he kind of just faded into the background. Went back to normal life, if you can believe it. It's like he hit the jackpot and then decided to call it quits. Fast forward to Red Dead Redemption 2, and surprise, surprise, Weithoff is back as Marston. And yeah, it was great to hear his gravelly voice again, but it didn't really change much for his career overall. These days, Weithoff's got a decent following on social media. The fans love him, and he seems to genuinely appreciate that connection. He pops up at conventions now and then, does some interviews here and there. But in terms of acting gigs, it's been pretty quiet on that front. Giving him a C grade. On one hand, he's forever cemented in gaming history as John Marston. That's huge. But on the other hand, he hasn't really capitalized on that fame in the way you might expect. It's like he's content being a big fish in the small pond of Red Dead fandom, rather than trying to swim in the wider ocean of acting. But hey, maybe that's just how Weethoff likes it. Not everyone's cut out for the hustle and grind of Hollywood. And at the end of the day, he's got a loyal fan base and a legendary character to his name. That's more than a lot of actors can say, even after years in the business. So yeah, while his career might seem stale from the outside, Weethoff's got his niche. And who knows? Maybe one day Rockstar will come calling again, and we'll get to hear that familiar drawl one more time. Until then, he'll always be the face and voice of John Marston to fans around the world. Next, Alex McKenna, the woman behind the badass Sadie Adler in Red Dead Redemption 2. This gal's got a pretty interesting story when you look at her whole career. So, before she ever picked up Sadie's six-shooter, McKenna was already making waves in Hollywood. She started off as a kid actor, doing that whole child star thing. And unlike some of those stories you hear about child actors crashing and burning, McKenna just kept on trucking. She snagged roles in TV shows and movies throughout her teens, building up a solid resume before she even hit her 20s. Not too shabby, right? Then comes RDR2. McKenna becomes Sadie Adler, everyone's favorite vengeful widow turned bounty hunter. Her performance was killer, bringing this complex, fierce character to life in a way that had players cheering. Sadie could have easily been just another tough-as-nails female character, but McKenna gave her depth, making her journey from grieving wife to badass outlaw feel real and earned. Now, post-RDR2, McKenna's career hasn't exactly exploded, but she's definitely keeping busy. She's still showing up in TV shows and movies, even if they're not exactly blockbusters. We're talking low-budget stuff, indie films, that kind of thing. But hey, in the acting world, steady work is nothing to sneeze at. Plenty of actors would kill for that kind of consistency. What's cool about McKenna is that she seems to have found this sweet spot between her acting gigs and her connection with the RDR2 fanbase. The fans absolutely love her, and she's pretty active on social media, engaging with them and sharing behind-the-scenes stuff. It's like she's got this whole other career just being Sadie Adler for the fans, I'm going with B grade. She might not be headlining major Hollywood flicks, but she's working steadily and has this awesome, dedicated fan base. Plus, she's managed to avoid the pitfalls that a lot of child actors fall into, which is impressive in itself. McKenna's situation is kinda unique. She's got this solid acting career that's been chugging along since she was a kid. And then she's got this whole other thing with the RDR2 fandom. It's like she's straddling two worlds, the traditional acting scene and the gaming community. And she seems to be handling it all pretty well. Who knows what the future holds for McKenna? Maybe she'll land another big role that'll shoot her to the top. She'll keep doing her thing, balancing smaller acting gigs with her Sadie Adler fame. Either way, she's carved out a pretty cool niche for herself in the industry. So yeah, Alex McKenna's doing all right for herself. She's got a career that's been going strong since she was a kid. She's part of one of the biggest games of all time, and she's got fans who absolutely adore her. Not a bad gig if you can get it, right? Now, we've got Steve J. Palmer, the voice of good old Bill Williamson. Now, Palmer's been in the game for a while, but he's never really been a household name, Before RDR, he was doing his thing, picking up small roles here and there, mostly in TV shows. Nothing major, but he was working, and that's half the battle in this industry. After Red Dead Redemption blew up, you might think Palmer would have seen a big boost in his career. But nah, he pretty much kept on the same track. He's still grabbing roles here and there, mostly small parts in TV shows and the occasional film. It's like he took the RDR fame in stride and just kept doing his thing. Gotta respect that kind of consistency, right? Palmer's kept a pretty low profile overall. He's not out there doing tons of conventions or hyping himself up on social media. It's almost like he's content being this kind of secret weapon in the voice acting world. You might not know his face, but damn, you know that voice. when you hear it. For Palmer, I'd probably give him a C+. He's maintained a steady career, which is no small feat in this industry. Plus, he's got this iconic role under his belt that'll always be there. He might not be swimming in leading roles, but he's still in the game, and that counts for something. Now, let's talk about Peter Blomquist, the man behind the rat himself, Micah Bell. Blomquist's story is a bit different, and honestly, pretty wild when you think about it. Before RDR2, Blomquist was basically a ghost in the acting world. Like, we're talking no real filmography to speak of, aside from one comedy movie. It's almost like he came out of nowhere to play one of the most hateable characters in gaming history. The twist in Blomquist's tale is that he apparently used to work at Rockstar Games. Yeah, you heard that right. It's like he was just hanging around the office one day, and someone was like, "Hey, you want to be in our game?" And boom. Suddenly he's Micah Bell. Post RDR2, Blomquist's career is, well, it's a bit of a mystery. He doesn't seem to have picked up a ton of high-profile gigs. But here's the thing. He absolutely killed it as Micah. Like, people hate Micah, which means Blomquist did his job perfectly. He took this character and made him so despicable that players were itching to take him down. Grading Blomquist is tough because his situation is so unique. On one hand, he came out of basically nowhere to deliver this incredible performance in a massive game. On the other hand, he hasn't really capitalized on that success in terms of landing more acting gigs. I'd probably give him a B-. The minus is because he hasn't really built on his RDR2 success. But the B is for absolutely nailing the role of Micah and becoming a part of gaming history. Both these guys, Palmer and Blomquist, they're kinda like the unsung heroes of RDR2. They might not be out there winning Oscars or headlining blockbusters, but they brought these characters to life in a way that stuck with players. And in the end, isn't that what it's all about? Curzon Dobell, the man who brought the wise old Hosea to life. Now, Dobell's been in the acting game for a while, and he's kind of kept that same energy going even after RDR2 blew up. It's like he just tipped his hat to the success and kept on riding, you know? Before RDR2, Dobell was already popping up in some pretty cool TV shows. We're talking stuff like Law and Order and The Good Wife. Not huge roles, but hey, he was in the mix. Then, RDR2 comes along, and he absolutely nails it as Hosea. Like, he gave us this character that was part father figure, part con man, and all heart. It was some good stuff. Post RDR2, Dobell's been keeping that same steady pace. He's shown up in some pretty high-profile shows like Mr. Robot and Gotham. Now, we're not talking main character status here, it's usually just for an episode or two. But man, in the TV world, that's still pretty sweet. It's like he's become this go-to guy for when shows need someone to come in and nail a guest spot. He's not out there chasing fame or trying to be the next big thing. He just shows up, does his job damn well, and moves on to the next gig. It's a kind of quiet professionalism that you've got to respect. For Dobell, I'd probably give him a solid B. He's maintained his career trajectory, even landing spots on some pretty big shows. Plus, he's got that RDR2 cred now, which is always a nice feather in the cap. Now let's talk about Gabriel Sloyer, the dude behind Javier Escuella. Before RDR2, Sloyer was working, but he wasn't exactly a household name. He had some small roles in TV shows and movies, but nothing major. Then comes RDR2, and suddenly he's voicing this complex character that people are really digging into. Javier's whole journey, from loyal friend to, well, you know how it goes. Sloyer brought all that conflict and depth to the character. For Sloyer, I'd probably give him a B+. He's definitely moved up from where he was before RDR2, landing roles in some bigger productions. Plus, he seems to be really embracing the whole RDR2 thing, which is cool to see. And we are done. Whose performance you think was best in RDR2, besides Roger Clark, of course? Let me know in the comments. Subscribe to the channel, I'll see you in the next video. Till then, take care and have a nice day.